I think we can start, and if people are joining later, they can have a backup afterwards. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you hear me loud and clear. First of all, I would like to thank you all for participating in the first webinar we are giving in SIPSA. My name is Jorge Arnaiz, and I'm an IT analyst. I work for SIPSA. That is a company that has 35 years or more of experience. In today's webinar, we're going to talk about the importance of test automation, their benefits, and how to use TAST. That is the tool we are using actually right now in SIPSA for our test automation cases. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat, and afterwards we will write you, each one of you, an email answering all of your questions. Let me start by talking about the importance of testing and presenting you. Well, these are the topics we're going to talk about in this webinar. The importance of test automation, how to automate the test cases with TAST and how to use it, the adapters, and what functions can we use in each one of them. Not all of them, but the most important ones. How to use TAST and how to make UML diagrams. And we are going to make afterwards a demonstration of how it works and how it executes a diagram made by me. Well, let's start saying that in every software project, there are 4 variables that will determine the success of this project: functionality, time frame, costs, and quality. These factors are highly dependent on each other, and the organization must decide which factor is more important, thus determining the value of the rest. Quality is ensured via software testing and can potentially become a major problem for an organization. Interaction between business and technical staff is paramount to ensure that both software and testing requirements are understood. In traditional software, waterfall software projects have big test stages. The UAT, the user acceptance testing, being the last phase prior to going into production. So happening close to the end of the project, it produces a high amount of stress, especially between business and development. That delays software generation usually imply less time for testing, and since the pressure to go into production, avoid to go live data being delayed. By the other hand, in agile methodologies, require continuous input from business, as every sprint needs a testing stage to allow software to be promoted to the next stage. Therefore, the key for success is how to make quality compatible with a scenario of deviations in time and cost. The answer is clear: doing more with less effort. How? Automating your testing process. Test automation provides fast test execution, easy regression testing, and allows performance of extensive test sessions in a fast and efficient way. Rather than as an extra cost, test automation should be considered as an investment, since the cost of automation starts to pay back in the moment that hundreds and hundreds of test cases are executed at the same time. You're reducing testing times dramatically, not to mention the cost saving once a new iteration is needed. However, test automation requires a specialist on programming language, since it's based on scripts. This shrinks the possibility for business partners to take part into the testing design and opens the door to those interpretation errors. Quite often they fail because the lack of functional knowledge as well as the day-to-day experience of the business process. So what can we do to start automating your test cases? Well, the answer is simple. You can start using TAST. And TAST is just that multi-layer solution that, by the usage of standard UML sequence diagrams, provides a natural language to share the script with the business partner, reinforcing their involvement in the testing and accepting process. Test cases are defined independently of the system of under test, which favors the reusability of those diagrams. Okay, so now let's move to TAST, and you can see what we're talking about. I hope you hear me all loud and clear. If it's so, you can leave it in the comments. Perfectly, okay. So this is TAST. This is the login page. As every login page, we have the username and the password. We only have to log in, okay? And the dashboard appears. This one is the first, the main page we have in TAST, where you have a little bit of information about what is happening right now in the tool. We have, for example, the test cases that have been executed today. The adapter is available, and some other information like the debug and so. These are the tabs we can use in TAST to go through the application and use the several options it offers. The first one is settings, where you can make simple changes in the interface of the application. Then we have the customize tab, where we have two subtypes, domain and projects and users. In domain and projects, we can classify and organize our test sets in bigger folders, so that every test set we have, we can have it organized and localized in a certain spot. We can add new domains or projects as we wish, and we can delete every project or every domain if we wish. In projects and users, we can add users to the projects or domains we have created in the previous tab, and also in the action column we can erase every user we want. Moving next to the user roles, here is where we can manage every user we have in TAST at this moment. We can give them a role of administration so that they can make changes in the tool. Only view the diagrams we create, view and change diagrams, so you can give every user the role you need for that user. Moving on, we have infrastructure. We can where we can define pools and hosts. Pools are just a group of hosts. Okay, actually, at this moment we only have one host per pool, but we can change it and we can make pools for more hosts. And the host is just the computer we are using, the machine we are using. So that afterwards here in planning, that I'm going to explain you later, so that you can plan execution in that specific computer or PC, so that you can make, if you make changes in your application and you wanted to make regression test cases for that changes you're making weekly, for example, you can plan your executions weekly and make them automatic. And these three last steps are the most important, is where we make our diagrams. Modeling is UML diagram is where we are going to start to make our diagrams. And it's so simple as creating a new diagram, okay? Selecting the domain and project we've created previously in our first tab, and we can create any folder, in any folder, the diagram we want. Okay, so for example, we're going to name it webinar testing test automation. And we have to give him a description, okay, so that we know what that diagram is going to automate. We can select other diagrams as a template using this option. It's searching by the name of the other diagram. We can use it as a template. And here we can select from which, what visibility can have this diagram, if we want it a public, domain, project, or private, okay? So here's where all it starts, okay? We're going to start to make a diagram. And the first and most important thing about these diagrams are the objects, okay? Here we have all the things we can put into the diagram. And we have here the objects, okay? Objects are the adapters we have actually at this moment. The user diagram is us interacting with the other adapter. And right now we have all these adapters. A database, Excel, GUI, that is web pages, HTML, PDF, XML, Word, text files. Here we can select the adapter we want. Every adapter has a series of data needed to be instantiated, okay? And we need that values for it to work. Here, for example, we can put Google, and we can select the browser we need. There are several options you can use. Take screenshots, and so. This is the basics of the diagram, okay? The objects. The thing goes from the user to the object. What you want to do, you tell the object what you want to do with the functions. The functions go through messages that go from the user to the adapter. These messages have several functions, as I said, like type, click action, print, select. Those sorts of things you are going to need going throughout a web page, okay? We have also the function gate. This allows you to, in the main diagram, call another diagram that you can reuse from another test cases, for example. And it's just so simple as selecting the domain and project where that diagram is, and selecting the diagram you need. You can also use predefined functions like used in programming languages, like if, else, whiles, fors, in the main diagram. It's very visual, so you can know where the if and where the else is taking part, and it's very comfortable to use. You put here the condition that you have to, it must imply the message, and if it's taking part, it goes for this one, and if not, it goes for that. And subtest cases is a new function we've made where you can divide a test case in subtest cases. Okay, this is a new function we've made frequently. We have also the addition for the diagram, so you can view in a different way. You can zoom in, zoom out, move throughout the diagram as you wish, and delete, insert, all of that. In order to save the diagram, the changes you've made, you have to save it. And to execute this test case, you must launch it. Okay, here you launch the diagram to the client. The client is the launcher of this tool. Okay, you have to download it. It's an extra version, so every time a new version is released, it directly downloads the new version, and you can use it. I have it already downloaded, and here you have the same user and password as you have in TAST in the web page. Here it gives you a question if you want the test set list you have in the client to be loaded or to be cleared. Okay. And this is how you see the diagrams you launch from TAST to the client. This one is the one I've made for this webinar, and we will see it later. We have here this next tab is the data management tab, where we can modify every data we put into a diagram. Okay, so for example, I'm gonna use the one I've made for this webinar. This is the data management main option, where you can change every single data that is in the diagram. So here we can see in the diagram I've made, this is how it's organized by folders. So this is the diagram I've made for today's webinar. Okay, it's very simple. It's just an interaction between the user and Google, and afterwards there's an Excel so that we can grab the values. Okay, so here we can see the steps of the diagram, and in data management we can change each one of those values so that we can make several test sets, test cases different from each other. So here we can search. Here we can search, instead of weather in Madrid, weather in Barcelona. Okay, and we will research, instead of weather for Madrid, weather for Barcelona. This is the main option we have with data management, that we can change every value and also give them descriptions, change the adapters, etc. The repository management is another new thing we've implemented newly in TAST, and it's Okay. Let's see. Well, it's a feature that TAST offers you, where you can introduce values that are available for every diagram you want to, and every now and then you have to change one of those values so that you don't have to change it in every one of those diagrams you've been making throughout the time. You only have to change it in the repository list, and it will change for all of those diagrams. The changes will run through all of those diagrams, okay? The next tab we have is the running, is the test set management, where we can organize our test cases in test sets. So we can make a bigger execution with lots of test cases, right? So here we are going to make a new one. It's just like creating a new diagram. You select the domain and project where you want that test set to be saved, and you name it as you wish. Here you can is where you introduce the test cases you want to interact with, to execute. And here is the one I've created for this session. Okay, so here in data management, if we make a simple change and create a new tab, okay, and we change what we change after later, we change it for Barcelona, okay. Now we have 2 test cases to execute. To make it simpler, we make a group of them, and we make test sets, okay. Oops, I didn't save it. You have to save your data management so that the changes are made, okay. Well, no. Here. I don't know what's happening. Well, okay. Here you create your test set, okay. You select your diagram, and as in the diagram, you have to save it and launch it to the client. When you launch to the client, you have to refresh, and it appears here the new test set you've made, okay. Here is the planning tab, where we can make a plan execution, okay. We can select the diagram, the test set we want to execute, the date we want to be executed, and the time. And if we want it to be periodic, we can make it periodic, weekly, monthly. Here's where we have to select the host we've defined in the infrastructure tab. And this is a very useful tab, so you can leave things to be executed when no one is, for example, interacting with the web page you're using or testing. The last tab is the results tab, where the result document results is saved, generated. Afterwards, after you execute a diagram, you have a document result file where you can download it and see every step by step the result of that step, the description, and if it went well or not. We're gonna make now a simple execution with the diagram I've made, and afterwards I'll show you how the results page works. For execution, you have to click the play, and you can also use the debug, where you can select a step where you want the test to finish, to stop, and where you can continue then from that step. Let's see the execution. As you can see, it goes automatically, and afterwards we can have a series of results. Okay, the test has finished. As you can see, the execution has finished well. Okay. If it's green, it's okay. If it's red, is something went wrong. Here we have the log of the execution, where we can see how it went every step of the execution. Sorry for the colors I've made to these ones, and I have to see them with these colors. And here we can see a step by step the result of the step, where it made the click, where it made everything. No, you have all the information of the test here. And this diagram, what it made was enter in the first link of Google and pick up the first value of the weather. This value prints it on an Excel I've told him to do. So here we have now that the Excel has the value we got from Google. So now in the results page, if we go to the domain and project we've saved the diagram in, we can see here there's the execution I've just made right now, the status, and the time that it took to execute. Okay. Here there are some actions we can make, as we have we can upload the test set to ILM. We can download the evidences we've seen right now from the client, and we can download the document of evidence, the evidence document. Okay. This document is very helpful for watching how the executions went and having a resumed view of the execution. So here you will have the execution steps for the diagram you just executed. So that will be everything for the diagram, for the webinar. I hope you all enjoyed this webinar. I would like to tell you that this is the first webinar of a series of them we are going to make here in SIPSA. These are the social networks we have at this moment in SIPSA. We encourage you to go check them out and give us some feedback on what you think. Thank you very much for being part of this first webinar, and you can have afterwards a review of this webinar in our YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch this webinar, you can go to the YouTube channel and watch it through again. And thank you very much for your attendance. Have a great day.